Hi there, this is Chris from Team Builder with Bite and welcome along to the build guide for the giant ball inner frame for carnivores. Now you may have seen smaller versions of these, generally made from plastic for domestic cats, and the idea is that there's a ball or two balls or three balls in it which the cats have to sort of basically knock and it spins around in circles. So we've created a giant version of one of these for large carnivores. This one in particular was actually made for lions, so it's literally the same kind of thing where they have to knock the ball around in a circle, and of course you can put different scents on those balls if you want to, and where we've tested it out with lions it has worked incredibly well. So let's get down to the build guide. So of course creating a giant version of one of these means that you need a lot of large materials because it has to be incredibly strong. So the timber which we used was 75 by 75 mil, and you can see here it's all in 2.4 meter lengths. So I'm going to leave this on the screen just for a moment so you can see how many lengths of each bit that we needed to cut. So it's 4 lots of the 1270mm, 4 lots of the 1130mm, 4 lots of 730mm, 4 lots of 590mm, 12 lots of 340mm, 8 lots of 410mm and 8 lots of 480mm. So there's quite a bit which goes into this, but the actual construction itself is fairly simple. So first up we need to create the squares of this toy. Now whenever we're doing any of our joints, particularly for these sort of large feeders for carnivores, we always like to use coach screws just because they're easier to put in and they're incredibly strong, so they're not going to snap at any point. So to make the squares we're going to use 2 lengths of the 730mm and 2 lengths of the 590mm, and that will create a perfect square as long as you're using that 75 by 75mm timber. So once you've done the inner square, you then got to build the outer square as well. So once again, 2 lengths of the 1270mm and 2 lengths of the 1130mm. As before, all of the joints are joined together with 2 coach screws, and if you want to make sure it's a bit stronger you can always go for 3 coach screws if you like. So they're the inner and outer squares, and you actually need to make 2 of each of these. So that will be your upper section and your lower section. And the reason for that we chose this particular size gap in between, which you can see is 200mm, that's actually because of the size of the boomer ball which we're using in this. So the idea is that the boomer balls will just sit inside this frame, so there's enough movement but not enough space where the balls can actually be pulled out. So these balls themselves are 235mm. So this is one of the corner sections which is going to join the upper and lower squares together. Now I wanted to show you this just on its own so you can kind of get a good idea of exactly what it looks like without any of the rest of the squares in it. So we're using several of those different bits of cut timber which we cut earlier on, so the 480s, the 410, the 340s, another sort of 480 there. So you can see there's a few different bits and pieces there. So if you need to, take a screen grab of that and then you come back again. So the way that it's actually joined on to these 2 squares is just like this. Once again, using 2 coach screws at every single joint in order to join this together. So you can see the idea is that once you've got this square goes around the inner frame and the outer frame, not only does it have the 200mm gap in that direction, but it also has the 200mm gap from lower to upper as well. So once again, that's because of the ball, making sure there's enough space there. Now this is a little bit complicated, particularly if you're doing it on your own. So you might want to have some kind of spacer on the other side of this while you get one side together. But just to sort of let you know exactly how it looks, because it does look a bit complicated from some angles, it's really not too bad. Like once you get it started, it does go together very, very easily. It's just all about patience. So once you've got one of those on, you'll then need to add the other one, and of course the ones on the other side here. Now the main thing before you go adding all of those in, make sure you get that boomer ball inside that frame, because of course as soon as all of these corners are in place there's no longer any movement to be able to put the balls in there. So before you put these last 2 on, get the balls inside and then you can tighten it all up with these last 2 corner sections here. And then the final thing that you need to do is just to add in these little corner pieces here. So it's literally just a section of wood cut at 245-degree angles, and it just makes this nice little line across here. Now the reason for this, when we were first building it, we found that the ball would roll along and actually just sit down into the corner, but the second that we put these little corner sections on like this, it allowed the ball to very smoothly just roll around the corner without stopping at all. So add those in, and then that is it. So that is the final thing that you need to do. It is going to take you a little while to do this. I mean, it's a big device. It is a big, heavy device, okay? But the results are absolutely worth it, as you can see here. So when we actually put this to the test with the group of lions at Woburn, you know, it was an incredibly hot day, one of the hottest days of the summer of 21, and these lions were interacting with it for well over an hour. We had to leave it an hour. We just sort of got enough footage and things. We'd watched to make sure it was all nice and safe, but they were still going at it at the point where we left. So it's a lot of work, but it's completely worth it. So good luck. Let us know how you do with it, and if you go ahead and make one and use it, we'd love to see your results and feature it if we can. Thanks very much, guys. Take care.